Hey guys, so I said today I was going to cover food, and the food video is actually going to be two parts: foods to support the immune system and foods that weaken the immune system. But as I was talking today to some of my clients, I realized that there was one more topic that I needed to touch on before I touched on food, and that is the term inflammation. So today I was asked in this group if leaky gut is the root cause of all disease. I find that all diseases have three root causes. And it could be one of those things, or it could be all of those things, or it could be any combination of those things. Leaky gut, an imbalanced gut microbiome, which we talked about, so the good bacteria that helps to keep you healthy and alive, in essence, your immune system, and inflammation. When we think of inflammation, we think of an injury. So let's say that you sprained your ankle and it swells, and that's inflammation. Inflammation is the body's natural response to trauma. However, there are diseases that are inflammatory diseases. And if you are inflamed, that means your body's trying to fight to repair something, and therefore it's distracted and can't fix this. So it does in turn affect your body's immune system if you are inflamed. So the term systemic inflammation means inflammation throughout the body. And that inflammation could be at the joints. That inflammation could be around the organs. That inflammation could be throughout the body. And when we're dealing with a weakened immune system or a chronic disease, typically there's chronic systemic inflammation. And so a lot of the foods that we're about to look at in tomorrow's video that help improve the immune system are also going to be anti-inflammatory foods. So as we go through, we're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about stress, we're going to talk about sleep, we're going to talk about genetics versus epigenetics, we're going to talk about specific micronutrients that help boost the immune system and that help reduce inflammation. And so before I dive into just the immune system, I wanted to talk about the link between inflammation and health. If you have leaky gut and things are leaking out into the bloodstream and around the organs like we talked about, the body's natural response is to fix that problem, which leads to inflammation. Inflammation can also be caused by high cortisol levels. Cortisol is our stress hormone, our fight or flight hormone. And when we're stressed and cortisol goes up, systemic inflammation happens. And that's why stress is linked to a weakened immune system. And stress is linked to almost every disease that we know. And really, stress can be a trigger for something that's already underlying to push it over the edge. And that comes from cortisol, and it's linked to inflammation. So managing your stress is very important. And that's why as we look at the return to school and everything that we've been through this pandemic and shutdown, we see that as people's stress level gets higher and higher, their immune system gets weaker and weaker. And that stress alone is the thing that leaves you open to getting sick. If you've ever noticed in other years when the flu goes around or a common cold goes around or even an intestinal flu goes around, a stomach bug, those of you who aren't sleeping well or who have high stress are far more likely to get sick than somebody who is managing their stress well, is getting a full night's sleep. And so guarding our cortisol, managing our stress, and understanding how our response to external factors helps lower inflammation is going to go a long way to boosting your immune system. And we will talk about stress management more in detail. We'll also talk about sleep more in detail. But today I wanted to just draw your attention to inflammation and how it affects your immune health. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about the best foods to fight inflammation and which foods to avoid because they cause inflammation. I don't know if it gave me a low battery, so I'm going to say that one more time. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about which foods are best to fight inflammation and which foods to avoid because they cause inflammation. The same foods will affect the immune system, and we'll talk about that. And we'll probably talk about that Monday, Tuesday, and maybe even on Wednesday before we get into the next stages of what we can do. As we go through, very last thing I want to say is we are going to talk about tips, tricks, even recipes you can make at home. And so some of these videos after today are going to be demonstration videos. So it's not just you listening to me talk all the time. So I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. I hope you all have a wonderful night. We'll talk soon.